Abs. Dude, why is this not? I usually keep two computers side by side so I can see what the comments are. And we're going to go to here. And I think we are almost, all right, sweet. We are just about on, Abby.
Yeah.
And that looks good. So what I'm going to do is minimize that. I'm going to come over here so we can see the comments as it, yeah, sweet. Looks like it's up. What are you seeing up and down or side by side?
Up and down.
All right, cool. So we got a couple. All right, hey, Nancy, pulverizers. We got some people on board already. Fantastic. Appreciate you all being here, guys. All right, cool. All right, so hey, Mark's from Philly. All right, cool. We got already 3 people writing in. That's fantastic. Much obliged. I am so stoked to introduce you my little sister, Abbie, who lives in Morristown. Well, not Morristown, but well,
Morristown.
it is Morristown, New Jersey. It works for a firm called Regent Atlantic out of Morristown, and side by side. Okay, they're seeing it side by side, right on. I minimize it so for you and I, Abbie, it's up and down. And Abbie's obviously is near and dear to my heart. And I had been on a live stream about 6 months ago, Abs, and that's my brother, everybody. But I thought it'd be fun to see maybe a more professional, hey Renee, more professional take of financial planning wealth management than me in my T-shirt without the drywall. Talk to my sister, who's a big wig, in fact, and I'm stoked to bring her. I can't wait to just get into it about what Abbie's background is, what she's doing for people and all that. And it's a lot of fun, and to show that anyone can be a financial planner. Because Abbie comes from the exact same background I come from, which is a true blue blood Northeastern Yankee. I mean, when it gets blue blood, that is us. And so if Abbie and I can both be successful financial planners our own unique way, anyone can. And I think actually it's important to recognize that. And I hate to use a cliche, more diversity and all that. I hate that. But at the end of the day, I do think the financial planning industry needs to have a more, I hate to say this, but I do think we need to get more people. And I don't even care about race or anything. I care about more people from different backgrounds, frankly. And the more people from different backgrounds, the better it is for everybody. It doesn't have to be just rich blue bloods from Yale. We need more regular people in the business. And if that is you, not you as, but you out there who are saying, I'm contemplating this, don't think you have to have, some kind of credentials working for your dad or anything like that. Trust us. Abbie and I, our parents were not in financial planning. So Abbie, welcome aboard. Abbie Rosen is here, and thanks for being on the live stream, Abs.
Thanks for having me, Josh. I'm really excited to be part of this. I've watched some of your videos, so to be a star in one is really exciting.
A star. If only knew you was how it's coming. Now we might see Pablo might be coming down here on occasion because he's got to give his approval on whatever financial planning. As Land Cruiser says, Abbie looks like hi Abbie. Josh looks like you got the short end of the stick.
And I will say my dog Sherlock is right by my side too.
Oh,
He's
man,
asleep at my feet.
Well, Pablo's someone is eating upstairs, so he went to eat as if we don't feed him. But anyway, so he might be jumping in. I have a sneaky suspicion Abbie will be okay with that. So Abbie, just tell us, a little bit, just your current position. We'll get into the background there, but just what you're doing right now, and we'll just go from there.
Sure. So I am a partner and a wealth advisor at Regent Atlantic. As you mentioned, we are a firm in Morristown, New Jersey, the largest registered investment advisor. I'm sure Josh has explained what that is on the podcast in the past. And we do have an office in New York City and one right outside of Philadelphia. I work with a lot of corporate executives, so helping them on stock option planning, employee benefits, things like that, but not specific to them. I really have a broad group of clients, and I really love what I do. I love working with them.
Yeah, and you've been doing this. Let's see, you got out of the Navy 2006. How long have you been in the business?
Yep. I got out of the Navy in 2005, and I had this idea that I wanted to be an investment banker. In all honesty, I had no idea what that meant. I just thought I could live in New York City and have a good living. So I started to work for one in the back office, and it was a good job, but it was really tedious because it was just inputting data into Excel spreadsheets every day.
Oh.
And it was brutal. And actually, I remember you and I talking about it, and you said, why don't you look into financial planning? It's a mix of the finance side, but then also the people side that I was really missing.
Yeah.
And so I looked into that in 2007. So I'm coming up almost to the day on my 13th year of working in financial planning.
So you started right during the beginning of the Great Recession then?
Yes. And I remember my first firm, things were really good in 2007. We were bringing in a lot of clients. The market was actually doing really well from that summer. And 2008 obviously was a different story, 2008 and 2009. So I've seen a lot in those 13 years.
It's crazy when you think about it. I mean, literally in our careers, and I'm a little bit ahead of you, but it's been some of the most challenging financial times, especially if you're, during from 82 to 2000, it was just freaking, I'm saying, you could put a penny in the ground and it's worth $1 million. And now it's the last 20 years has been anything but that. It's a challenging time for sure. If you had to say, like, do you find that you work with I know you said like corporate execs and all that with stock options, whatnot. Like who do you enjoy working with the most? And I know that's a little bit, I don't want to say like people you don't enjoy with, but I'm just saying, there's somebody that just gets you fired up. You just say, man, that is the kind of guy or lady or couple or whatever that it makes me think like where I enjoy it immensely. Anything jumps out at you?
Yeah, it's a good question. There's actually two types of people. One is the couple or family that I have a good enough relationship with that they call me for any financial decision, whether that's buying a new car or their son is getting married and how to help pay for the rehearsal dinner. But where it feels like a partnership rather than just I'm your investment manager.
Right,
so an example is this one family I've been working with for about 10 years now. They just decided to buy a shore house, and he called me right away to say, are you sure I can afford this? What's the best way to finance it? Who should I use for my mortgage person? Who should I use for my real estate attorney? And I love that relationship because we're working together to help his family meet their goals and what's important to them. And now we've become really friends. My husband and I go out to dinner with them, and it's just such a strong, solid relationship, and we trust each other. And I just think that's one of my favorite types of clients. And the second is the people who have crazy things I never I've never studied, I've never heard about those situations, and finding an answer. So it's kind of that problem solving element that I really love also. An example of that is the idea of a golden visa has come up recently.
A golden visa? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So it's people who, for whatever reason, want to have residency someplace other than the United States for different reasons. It could be political. It could be they want to do an investment in Europe. And I didn't know much about them. And so now I've done a lot of research on them. I've actually met some consultants who this is their area of expertise. And it's this huge area that I just wasn't aware of. And I love to learn. So now I've learned something new about that. And so anybody who comes to me with those kind of questions where I've never heard of it before, and I get to dive in and find a solution for them.
And you, I mean, you have obviously, I don't want to say an expertise so much, because you might, I don't want to put that word in your mouth, but certainly a special understanding of stock options and things like that a lot of people simply, I don't. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I know enough to be dangerous for sure, but I remember when he first were talking, it's like, wow, that's pretty in-depth stuff there, Abs. Not that many people in our background have that kind of knowledge. I've never heard of golden visa. So, I mean, but that kind of knowledge is definitely a value right in your head that you can't find on a Vanguard website or the Bogleheads or something like that, if that makes sense. And I bash the industry a lot, but I think there is something to be said about you're paying for someone's knowledge more than anything. You know what I'm saying? Like when someone hires you, they're hiring you to be that partner, but they're also, and I say this as myself too, you're not just hiring us, you're hiring people in order to say, you have something up in this brain of yours that is valuable over many years of building it. And it is worth a fee. You know what I'm saying? It's worth the cost. And I don't even know what that was, but stock options too. I mean, my goodness, if you screw that up, you don't get a second chance at this stuff. You know what I'm saying? It just actually, it pisses me off, part of my friends, because so many people look at the industry and they think investing is financial planning, is wealth management. And all I got to do is pick some index funds and I'm good. And I sit there and say, that's simply not financial planning. That's investment, but that's not financial planning. And I think it diminishes our own industry when professionals like us just focus solely on investing, for sure.
Right. I agree. And I'd say part of one of the skills that I have too is just the connecting of people. So it takes a lot of time and energy to find people that are trustworthy in insurance or property and casualty insurance, a good estate planner, a good CPA.
How's that? Last time we had spoken a few years back, you're like, man, we can't find good estate planners to save our life. Is that still the case up there in North Jersey? And I mean, we were that's when I was living in South Jersey. It's like, I need to find some. Are you still finding that there's few and far between, and the ones that are good are just freaking busy as hell, or what?
No, estate planning attorneys. I actually have a good cohort of those who I think really look at it from the planning aspect there too. Particularly now that New Jersey doesn't have an estate tax anymore, they're looking at other ways to talk to their clients. So it's not just about avoiding taxes; it's also about what are their goals and their needs. And so I found some really, really good estate planning attorneys in the North Jersey area.
We were having a hard time just, finding ones that weren't insanely busy. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and I was like, and I remember, because when I lived in South Jersey, I just said, man, some of these people, the ones that are good, they're good and they're charged. You can't get a hold of them. And then the ones that aren't good, they're doing ambulance chasing, estates, all kinds of real estate. And you're like, it's the ones that are good are worth a lot, certainly. So in New Jersey, there's still an inheritance tax, but no estate tax now.
That's right.
Okay. So you want to chat on just real quick? We'll take a segue here, but tell us a little bit about the inheritance tax in New Jersey, if it's still the same as what I remember. Just if you don't mind, just sharing that with us.
Yeah. So it's complicated, like a lot of taxes are. But the idea is, if you are leaving money to somebody who's not a direct descendant, not your child or grandchild or husband or wife, that person has to pay an inheritance tax. So if I wanted to leave money to my best friend, that she would have to pay the inheritance tax on what I gave her. And I think it's something like over $15,000, but don't quote me on that. I don't know the exact amount where you start paying the tax, but it's not high. And I think the highest amount you pay is 16%, but that steps up too, depending on what type of beneficiary you are. So there's different classes, and then how much the inheritance is.
And the issue is, folks, if you live in New Jersey, you can't escape that by moving to Pennsylvania either. At least the last I was there, Pennsylvania also had an inheritance tax. But and it's right now, it doesn't matter the specifics. It just matters if you live in New Jersey and you leave money to an heir that's not your direct. I mean, it can be sideways. You got to pay the inheritance tax. If it's down, they don't. But if it goes sideways to a brother, if that, when Abbie dies with her $10 million estate and leaves it all to me, to pay back how much pain she put me through, I'm gonna have to pay an inheritance tax. Just real quick, guys, folks, remember the difference, because I get this question all the time on the gift tax. The person who receives the money on a gift tax isn't the person who has to pay. An inheritance tax is different. The person who receives the money is the person who has to pay. Man, excuse me, I got coronavirus. So what happens is when you receive the money in a gift, you don't have to worry about it. And inheritance tax is different. New Jersey, but now they changed it where you can't pump your gas anymore, or can you?
No.
You still can. Okay,
No.
Christy.
Yeah.
So he didn't change it so you could pump your own gas. He did raise the gas tax, but he got rid of so there's no estate tax, or is it just a federal one right now?
No estate tax.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty good, because that was horrible before.
Yeah, it was the exemption was $675.
You like living in New Jersey?
I do. I coming from Maine, it's different. It's much more crowded. It's funny. I find that a lot of people in New Jersey come from New Jersey, so breaking into those really tight family and friend circles was tough in the beginning.
Yeah.
But we have the beach nearby. We could ski. The airport was close when people were flying, so it is convenient. New York City is close, but I do miss the slower way of life. The fact that it can take 2 hours to drive 5 miles sometimes is mind-boggling. But
where's Steve from? Bergen County, is that right? Or?
No, he's from Passaic, from West Milford.
West Milford. All right. What's Bergen County? Where's that? Is that
it's closer to the city.
Okay, gotcha. So Steve's that's her husband. Steve is from that, and that's would be considered a country part of North Jersey or something like that, or?
Well, Sussex is the country part, and West Milford borders Sussex, but Passaic is not all of Passaic's very country.
Okay, gotcha. And so you guys, all right, so let's go back to Maine, Abs.
Yes.
So you and I were raised on an island in Maine, in Peaks Island. Any memories about that specifically? And it doesn't have to be about me. Just anything that jumps out at you about being raised on an island? Just when you go back to the slower life, and now you're like right outside New York, and you probably go in the city quite a bit, and you were, essentially an island girl, which is the equivalent of a hick in Maine. So what's any thoughts on? It's a very interesting, how you're raised. Any thoughts on that?
So I remember Battery Steel and exploring that. So this is an old fort from World War II that was abandoned, and you just go back there and explore and crawl all over it. I remember taking the boat in the winter and we didn't have a car, so you had to walk everywhere in the snow, and I was pretty grumpy about that at times as a little kid. I remember that.
At times.
But then I remember there was quite a community there too. I think our pipes froze once, and we all stayed with different friends, and that's just what you did for each other. So I have, and for one of my birthdays, I had a strawberry shortcake birthday party that sticks out in my head as well. So I have fond memories of Maine and the ocean. I always have a special place in my heart for the ocean.
Oh, man.
But I'll also say the thing that I didn't realize till I went to college is I wasn't aware of wealth at all until I went to college, and I thought everybody wore flannel shirts and blue jeans. I didn't know what design. I had no idea what Louis Vuitton and Gucci was, and there were girls in my college who did, and I truly did not know what they were talking about. And that was I guess it's a matter of time before people realize that, but it was an adjustment for me hearing people talk about where they went on spring break and spending summers in Europe. And that's not how we grew up. And I didn't know people lived that way. So that was eye-opening for sure.
I just did a video on that. It's like when you grew up, you didn't even know you were poor. You kind of knew, but you knew that you didn't have, but you didn't know you were poor in the overall scheme, because, you're so in this constrained environment. You're like, we're not, I don't know. It's just one of those things, just what it is. You know what I'm saying? No big deal. But then I'll never forget the first, when we're in Honduras, and I'll never forget, there's a microwave, and we're on some, some podunk place to do security for the Air Force guys. And I remember I put some metal, or not aluminum foil in the microwave. I was getting ready to turn on, and my squad leader, Sergeant Jack, said, "What the hell are you doing?" I said, "I'm trying to heat this up." Because you don't put freaking that in a microwave, you stupid. I said, because I'd never had used a microwave. You know, it's crazy. I said, why? He goes, "Oh my God, yeah, right, right." But the same kind of thing about about you and all of a sudden these I hate to say rich kids, but just kids who've had it differently. It's just funny.
Yeah.
Now, all right, so you moved off the island, and then obviously went to high school and all that in Maine. You went to Holy Cross. All right, so Holy Cross in Worcester. My man Rob is on from Worcester here today, and I think Rob says, "How do you standing having me as a brother?" But he's in Worcester. All right, so then like when you're in college, like what made you chose? Because I was trying to convince you to go to UVA. I think you had been accepted to UVA, or I can't remember. But Ben was going to William and Mary, which is in Williamsburg, Virginia. Everybody, I was going to George Mason, which is in Alexandria, Fairfax, Virginia, and we were trying to get Abbie. I think you got into UVA, right?
I did,
yeah, we're trying to get Abbie to go to UVA. But you chose to go to Holy Cross to join ROTC. Was that the?
It's kind of a long story, but it was, ultimately, for whatever reason, I ended up there. It's a long story.
You're not beginning that, but I'm just saying, was ROTC like part of the reason, or
yes, it was part of the reason, and it's one of those things in life. I don't look back. I mean, I've looked back and thought sometimes what would have it been like at UVA, because they had an ROTC unit too. But the path that I took has worked out. So
yes, no, 100%. Yeah. What made you choose ROTC? I mean, I know Uncle John did ROTC, and and Uncle Charlie went to the academy, but did you say I want to go in the military when you're in high school or something like that?
No, this is all the mom influence. So all of you out there, everybody has mom, so everybody understands it. But mom really wanted me to go into the Navy. Her dad and her brothers were part of the Navy, and I wanted nothing to do with it. And honestly, my freshman year of college was not stellar from a grade perspective, and I thought, boy, maybe my mom was right. Let me try getting a little just some guidance. So I decided
discipline, maybe. Yeah, right.
Yeah, discipline. So I decided to join ROTC then, and being in the Navy was one of the. It was a great for somebody just out of college with no experience, never traveling. It is a great experience. You get to live and work with all sorts of people, see the world, manage people at a young age, learn from people who've done it before you. And and then you have this community and this mission that I don't think you get when you're 22 years old otherwise. So I feel very fortunate that I did that. It was a great thing to do at the time.
You even captained that boat, whatever ship. I don't know what they call them in the Navy, but what was the boat?
Not boats. They don't call them boats. Well, I was the navigator.
Navigator. I mean, for like like they sent to Grampy or something like that. Our Grampy was a captain of the Navy, everybody. And actually our Grampy's brother flew a bomber that took out a Japanese battleship. Do you remember what that battleship was called?
No.
In World War II. It's crazy. It's on Wikipedia. You can read. It's nuts. And but anyway, so Grandpa is very proud that Abbie got to captain the ship or something like that. What was it, Eisenhower or something? I always called the Eisenhower.
No, stop.
Oh.
No. I was on a cruiser called the Valley Forge. I was the navigator there, and
I keep calling the Eisenhower.
No, I'm not sure either. And I was on the USS LaSalle, and neither of those exist anymore.
Oh, really?
Mm-mm.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So the Valley Forge didn't have tomahawks, so it wasn't mission ready as much as some of the other ships. And then the LaSalle was pretty old. It was an old amphibious ship that they made into a command ship, so they made it an artificial reef. Now,
artificial reef, what does that mean? Like they just sunk it someplace out of Florida?
Yeah, it's hard to see. They actually saw a video of them. They did a exercise where they sunk it, and it's a little hard to see, honestly.
Now, so you get out of ROTC. You serve 2 tours, right?
Three. I
3.
did a short tour in London also.
Okay. Oh, this guy's Starling. He's in Hawaii. He said he did a year on the LaSalle. My man Starling from Hawaii.
Oh, okay.
Did you now during when the rat came out? You were what? What was your story there? Because I mean, you were in Navy while that was going on, right?
Yes, we deployed from San Diego on November 2nd. Was actually the day Ben, our other brother, got married. Was the day that I deployed. And we were out for about 9 months. We came back the June after. So we were in the Persian Gulf or Arabian Gulf, depending on your preference. When a lot of that happened. So, yeah.
Is there really a controversy about calling the Arabian Gulf versus the Persian Gulf? Really?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because the Arabics, they want to be called the Iranian Arabics and the Iranian Persians, they clash on the name of that.
I would have to go back and research why.
Okay.
But I know that there's some people want it called the Persian Gulf, and other people will say it's the Arabian
That's
Gulf.
interesting. I did not know. I mean, I makes sense. I just never would have thought that. Okay. Interesting. All right. So then you get out of the Navy. You're like, man, I got to get a job. You don't want to wash dishes at DeMillo's in Portland, Maine.
Right.
So you start looking around, you get your job, and fast forward, and here you are right now, kicking butt and taking names. Hey, another guy says he did a tour on the LaSalle when it was in Italy as a Com-6 flight flagship. All right.
Yeah, that's where I was too.
Oh man.
Yeah.
This guy also said he sent me a private message that you told him to do push-ups because he wouldn't shine your shoes.
Yeah.
We got 2 LaSalle people on here. Gary says a boat leads inward when turning, a ship leans outward when turning. Okay. I don't know. I grew up in an island, man. We call them a boat. And then all the non-island natives call it a ferry. We're like, it ain't a freaking ferry. It's a boat. The Peaks Island boat is a boat. And people are like, I'm waiting for the ferry. We're like, oh my goodness, get out of here, summer trash. Go back to Massachusetts. Nuts. Anyway, a bunch of people are saying hello to Abs. All right. So now married, you got 2 kids. Old John and Hannah, which we love to death. You got your dog Sherlock, your Uncle Steve, and just loving family life in Moorestown. Now, was your commute? I mean, you work right in the town that you're living in, right? So that's got to be pretty sweet.
I've been one of those incredibly fortunate people who has never had a long commute, and in the tri-state area, that's not easy to say. And I think it makes all the difference in the world and in my happiness. And I know not everybody has that luxury. I definitely understand that, but I feel blessed every day that, almost every night we're home by 6 and we're leaving the house at 8. There's families on my street that one of the parents or both of the parents, they don't get home till 9 o'clock at night and they leave at 5 a.m. And that takes a toll on everybody. So we're incredibly blessed, and we know that. But yeah, very, very short commute. I've been lucky to always have that.
I had a client when I was at USA, and actually it's ironic because we met in Manhattan for lunch one day or breakfast or something like that. And he was a nice guy, had a couple $1 million. Yeah. And but he's nice. But he told me, he goes, look, I'm just not that happy. And he was an older guy. He goes, I'm just telling you, Josh, the one thing I will tell you is to make sure you're home for dinner. He goes, nothing is more important. He goes, I wish I would have known that because I got, probably had $5 million. He goes, I got $5 million. I got no one to spend it with because he just said, I was so focused on work. And that hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, man, and I've never been one to need to get, freaking, huge amounts of money, but I just remember be home for dinner and I just said, oh, man, that was huge words to live by. I feel bad for those guys who are gone from 5 a.m. to 9 at night, especially got kids, man. Sad. All right. So I want to show everybody your website. I wonder if I can do this. I'm going to try to share my screen, Mabs, and I'm going to show everybody real quick your website. Let's see if I can do this. I'm hoping. All right. So let me, man, I don't have the other one up. Anyway, so this is Abbie's firm. It's let me bear with me just a second, Abs. I'm going to try to get on here videos and make sure everybody can see this, because if not, this is going to look kind of weird. Because I want them to know, A, how to get, if they want to get a hold of you, how they can, but B,
Sure.
just right here. Okay, sweet. It looks like hold on just a second. Make sure I'm seeing that. You're just seeing me right now, right?
I see the website.
Oh, okay, good. All right, so this is Region Atlantic at regionatlantic.com. Pretty interesting. They got a lot of news feeds. Oh, yeah, there you go. Sweet. Weekly briefing, all kinds of stuff. But here, values-based investing during uncertain times is a webinar that Abbie did. And this guy, I don't know who that guy is.
It's our chief investment officer,
Okay.
Chris Cordero.
Gotcha. Values-based investing. And there she is on the front page. Look at that. That's pretty cool. So anyway, and then you can go to the team here. I imagine this would be where they find you, Abs. Go to the team.
Yep,
right,
exactly.
And so here's all the groups here. And let's see if we can't find, there's a guy that she did, Chris Cordero. Yep. And let's see if we can't find the Bull in the China Shop. Is it by alphabetical order?
It is. It is.
So we got to go all the way. There we go. The Bull in the China.
Yep. Oh.
Abbie.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
My Wi-Fi went out.
Oh, Pablo.
That was weird. It just literally just went out and I couldn't get on anything. I even tried texting. It took a while for it to get in. I was like, dude, what is going on? All right, so hold on just a second. All right, so you can hear me. There he is. Oh, Pablo heard you. You can still hear me, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. Looks like we're streaming. Let me get back to the YouTube thing here. Hold on just a second. So we went out. All right, hold on just a second, Abs. All right, we're gonna pull this guy back up. All right, there we go. All right. All right, sorry, folks. All right, cool. He's back. Right on. All right. All right, cool. All right, Josh fails at the internet. All right, so so Abs, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1 things that people do wrong financial planning wise that you've seen in your 13-year career of being a financial planner. What anything jump out at you? Say, man, I just wish people would focus on this. What anything you want to share with folks?
Sure. I have three things that jump out at me. So one is if you have life insurance through your employer and you are healthy, you should look on the private side as well, because what ultimately happens is you are pooled together with all the unhealthy people, and usually up till age 40, it's cheaper through your employer. But once you hit 40, you would have been much better off with a private policy on the outside. So that's one thing, is don't just assume because your employer offers it to you that it's the best or cheapest out there. A lot of times as you age, those employer sponsored plans can be pretty expensive. So that's one thing.
Absolutely.
Now, if you're not healthy, it's a godsend. So just make sure you can get coverage before dropping any of your employer coverage, for sure. The other thing is, I think if you have an HSA available, max that out, because I think it's a great tool for tax-free savings, for medical use. And if you don't need it, it can grow. And when you do need it, it's there for you, but you get, it's tax-free on every level, and you can actually invest it and earn something on that. So I love the HSA. And then the other thing is tax location. So what that means is if you own Apple stock, own that in a taxable account, not in your IRA. And the reason being is you want to take advantage of the preferential tax treatment in a taxable account that you don't get in a traditional IRA. Remember, any money you pull out of your traditional IRA is pulled out at ordinary income. Now, there's always exceptions to this, right? Because if you know you're going to be in a low tax bracket for the rest of your life, then having in an IRA may not be the worst thing. But if you know you're going to be taking big IRA distributions, you want to put things that have ordinary income into that IRA, and you want to have tax preferential things in your taxable account. So just don't mirror your accounts is the point there.
Oh man, all right. So life insurance, if you are in good shape, look at giving a private policy.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that was spot on me. I'll never, scary. And I wrote about it in my first book, Strategic Money Planning, a shameless plug for my first book. I think that's 100% spot on. HSAs. Do you find most companies are offering HSAs nowadays, or because I think they're fantastic, underutilized. They're fantastic.
I agree. Most of my clients, their companies are offering them with a high deductible plan. High deductible plans can be a hard pill to swallow if you're not used to them.
Right.
But a lot of times they sweeten the deal by the employer will add a nice chunk of money to your HSA as well. And so if you don't end up using it, you can end up with a nice size HSA to help with retirement medical expenses as well, or those one-off things that happen, like slicing your thumb on a mandolin.
Yeah.
Or a forefinger.
Right. Can you use HSAs for Medicare Part B, Part D, and supplemental policies? I know you can't get an HSA or contribute once you're on Medicare, but you can use it for those premiums, right?
I am almost positive, but I would want to double check that and get back to you. But I know you can use them for health insurance premiums.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't think Medicare supplemental would be excluded from that, but I can look into it and get back to you.
But you can use it. All right. So what if you go on Obamacare? Let's just say that for an example. ACA is $1,000 a month, and you're not on Medicare. You can use your HSA for that.
Mm-hmm.
Huh? That's interesting, because that would say, you know, a lot of fire movement guys, they, you know, they work so they can get, you know, the qualifications for the premium credits. So if you have an HSA and you need, you know, $15,000 a year for your healthcare, you can pull it from your HSA tax free to pay for your Obamacare, which could qualify, which won't go to your 1040, right? And so that means you would be able to get the Obamacare premium credit. I never thought about it like that. I know I get the thing with the Roth. I just never thought about using the HSA while you're waiting for Medicare. I was working with a couple today, Abs, and they're having, so they both got laid off. They're both in the medical field, you know, just out of nowhere. And they, you know, they've got pre-existing conditions in their early 60s, so a few years out from Medicare, and they get COBRA, but you know, they got to pay all that. And after that, it's like, dude, you're, you know, it's gonna, you know, the premiums for Obamacare go from, I think, $1,800 to $2,900. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yeah, it's $36,000 a year you got to pull out of an IRA, which is taxable, which on top of the living expenses, which means the whole thing is just nuts. And yeah, Gary says he's 99% certain HSAs can be used for Medicare too. I think I'm going to go. I think that's right. But if you had an I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. If you had an HSA, that would solve some of that for sure. What are you doing for folks who are before Medicare and being laid off, you know, going on COBRA, and then, you know, they got that gap? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's tricky, particularly in New Jersey, because I believe there's only one company left on the exchange even. So their choices are really limited. But what we'll do is, again, we'll work with someone who has an expertise in the area, because since healthcare is changing so quickly, and each type of policy covers different things, and depending on what your needs are, we'll set them up with somebody who can help them figure out what the best option is.
I mean, there's only one company offering insurance outside of employer or Medicare right now.
Right, but it's what plan to get even can be a decision. So.
Oh yeah, right. So you got your.
So it's not. I mean, there aren't a lot of choices. There really aren't a lot of choices now. It's a challenge.
It is. I mean. So of course, not a lot of choices. There's no competition, which means the premium is going to be high, and the service will be not great. All right, so New Jersey is tough. All right, gotcha. That Jill says she doesn't think ACA can be paid from HSA, but COBRA and Medicare can be paid from I don't know, Jill. I don't know why we'll have to look at that more.
Well, we'll look at it and we can post it on your show notes, right?
There you go. Show notes. Right on. Okay. And all links will be on there too. Have you ever thought about writing a book, Abs?
No.
Never?
No.
No desire to?
No, I just haven't given it a lot of thought.
Okay. All right.
What do you think?
Yes. Hell yeah. Write a book.
All right.
How do you, all right. So how do we get more women in the business? And again, without being patronizing. So you have any, I would like to hear your thought on that. Cause I do completely think there's a different mentality from women and men, believe it or not. And I think some women are better listeners, not all, but some are. And I think some men are better, I don't know, sales guys, I guess. Not all, but some are. I don't know how you say it, but there's a difference. Believe it or not, there's a difference between the sexes. Crazy. But I think in financial planning, not investment management, financial planning, I think there's a need for more listeners and less talkers, if that makes sense, which inherently would say, I think this is a field well established for women to come in here. What's keeping women out, and how do we get them without patronizing? Like, Abbie, you're going to be on the Women in Diversity Council. How do we get people in here?
I think it's going to have to be word of mouth on what a great career it can be. And unfortunately, all financial advisors are not the same, but the label is the same, and people feel icky about it. I don't feel icky at all about what I do. I really love it, but whether you call it a financial advisor or wealth manager, people get the same reaction, and it's hard. So it's hard for people to get excited about, I can't wait to be a financial planner, because it does have some negative connotations to it. So I think it just has to be word of mouth and talking, and women, but people from all walks of life, honestly. Like I think about in my firm, what makes us good, and it's that there's a variety of backgrounds. So there's some people whose parents were small business owners, so they really understand the struggles of small business owners. There's people like me who are in the military. There's other people who went to school for it, and that's all they've ever known. There's some people who had immigrant parents, so I think all of that allows for better conversations, and you can bring people in who have had a different experience than your own that can help relate to clients going through things. So I would just, it would be great if there was a way to somehow differentiate the kind of sleazy title from what I think you do and what I do.
Yeah. Well, it's no, I completely agree. It's interesting too, because everyone says, well, it's not a lack of sales acumen because women are CPAs. I mean, math acumen because women are CPA. I think probably more CPAs that are women than men.
I would think so too.
And then the sales agents, real estate agents are, I bet there's more women as real estate agents as men. So it's not a lack of, go get them sales or lack of math. It's not any of that, because I don't do that much math. You know what I'm saying? It's I just think it's the idea that we're out there as hunters and gatherers, and that's just not what financial planning is, which is one of my pet peeves of why financial planners have been lumped in with the investment management guys. But with that said, I mean, we do investments too, so we'll see. I'm actually cautiously optimistic about it's not just women and men. It's about more diverse. I hate to say diverse, but more diverse backgrounds, people that introverts. I think a lot of people think in this business you have to be an extrovert, and I actually don't think so at all. I think the best financial planners are introverts. I really, really do. And I, you have to be able to talk to people without picking your nose. But other than that, I mean, hell, I do that. You know what I'm saying? Right as I'm, right on my Zoom call. And but other than that, I think you can still be introverted and get clients that appreciate you for sure.
Yeah.
What now, let's just talk about, let's just go into investing. We've talked about life insurance, we've talked about states, we've talked about that kind of stuff. Any thoughts on, are we, the markets are, who knows what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
What do you think? I just cannot get over, Abbie, this sense that 40 million jobs are lost and we're out of the woodwork yet. I can't fathom that. It just doesn't make sense. What do you guys think? I mean, I'll ask you to speak, but maybe you and your firm have some thoughts on this, or what do you think?
We feel similarly, but we're also humble enough to say that we can't predict the markets. And this year is a prime example of that. If you, on March 23rd, you had said we'd recover in a couple of months with the data that we saw, I would have said, no way. So what I know is I can't predict the markets. The other thing I know is they go up over the long term. Are we a little cautious right now? Absolutely. That doesn't mean go to cash.
Right.
It doesn't mean get out. It just means, we're not aggressively rebalancing back into equities, because we'd rather have a little bit more cash or fixed income on the side, because of exactly what you're saying is the exuberance in the market doesn't jive with what is going on. And I think there's going to be, I don't think we really know yet, because we had an extra $600 of unemployment that will end.
Yeah.
We had a lot of stimulus that's going to end. And I think we're going to see that a lot of business, not a lot, I don't know. Some businesses won't make it. and some people are going to start to really struggle if there aren't jobs. So I'm not convinced that the volatility is over. And I'm not trying to be a doomsdayer. I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. But as I said, I'm humble enough to say I don't get it right a lot of times, because the market is its own animal and acts in ways that I don't understand sometimes. So,
well, the sad thing is going to cash is not an option. You're not getting
Right.
4%. And so
Yep.
it's kind of like, what's your thinking on international vis-a-vis US? I mean, some folks are heavy, Vanguard is heavier international than I would ever be, but I have no international. What's yours? So it's kind of like Vanguard, I think, is 40% international and 60 domestic, 40% international. How about what's your guys' take as as a firm or just yourself personally?
Yeah, we are not as heavy as Vanguard, but definitely on the heavier side of international. And again, because we just don't know what's going to lead the way when. And so, we look back over historically, and I know historical returns don't predict the future, but the US has led the way for the last 10 years and pretty substantially. And before that, emerging markets really led the way. So to know exactly who's going to be in the lead, I don't know. So we do have international exposure, but not as much as Vanguard.
Small versus large, value versus growth. Are you guys just kind of across the board diversified? No plays, so to speak, or what's you guys?
No, we do. We have some small cap exposure too for diversification, and we also have more of a value tilt. I wouldn't say we're all in value, but in general, we believe in the value premium of buying things that are less expensive than their peers. So that is a tenet that we believe in.
Yeah, okay. No, I completely agree. How about real estate investment trust? I mean, have you all looked? I mean, do you do anything specific on that? Just by like a Vanguard REIT, or what's your takes? I'm a big fan of those right now, in particular. But I know what's happening.
So are we. We like real estate right now too, and I think that's an interesting one to look at in more detail too, because people hear it and they cringe because they think of shopping malls and office buildings.
Right.
As you know, the Vanguard REIT, those pieces make up about 8% each of the Vanguard REIT.
Interesting.
So, but the bulk of it is warehouses, cell phone towers.
Really?
Yeah. So that's the other reason why we like it is, the Amazon warehouses, the cell phone towers, the data storage for companies, all of that is doing well and growing. So that 16% we don't feel rosy about, but a lot of the other things really have some good potential.
I did not know that. So I didn't even think about Amazon warehouses, cell phone towers, and the land around there. That's part of real estate investment trust, huh?
It is, yeah. And think about all the cloud computing and things too.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say the Google. I mean, just put it on here, YouTube. I mean, my goodness, so many people. Are you all still in quarantine up there, or you have to wear a mask, or what's the deal with old Governor Murphy?
We're opening up a little more kind of each week. We're going to find out tomorrow what the standards for opening schools in September will be. We are opening indoor dining to 25%, I believe, on July 2nd. I might not have the date exactly right, but in the near future. Outdoor dining is okay.
Sans mask or with mask or without or with a mask?
No, most establishments will say wear a mask when you enter and while you're on their premises, but when you're eating, you're not wearing a mask. If you're sitting at your table, you're okay. But camps are opening July 6th. There said we can start doing sporting events as well. So not sporting events, but high school sports and things like that. So it's definitely loosening up, but they did just put a travel restriction on people coming into the state. So
I wasn't coming anyway, Governor Murphy. So put that in your peace pipe. I tell you, Abbie, come August, if schools ain't opening, I'm dropping 3 kids off at not Birmingham Falls, at Northwestern Middle. That's 2, and 1 at Cambridge. I'm saying I'm dropping them off. So if schools aren't open here in Georgia, they're going to have to find their way home because they're going to school, if you know what I'm saying.
I do.
Woo!
I do.
All this time of quarantine, woo, I love my kids and all, but they are ready to get out, and I'm ready to get them out.
Yeah.
Let's see. Hi, Ab. This is my man, Sergio. How long would Josh last at your firm before he got a call from compliance?
I think that's a rhetorical question.
Yes.
You know the answer.
Roy says Josh is the black sheep of the family. Oh boy.
Oh, Roy.
Roy. Notice how Abbie did not deny that. Keith says, you seem like a very nice person, Abbie. Your brother is very smart and he has helped many hundreds of people. Keith, actually, AKA Mom. Thank you. If you get to questions, I'd like to hear your thoughts on individual stocks versus ETF index funds, says Pulverizer. Any thoughts on ETFs versus individual stocks?
So I like them both, but I think it depends on what size you're talking about. Having a 60 stock portfolio with $50 each seems like a lot to manage. In that kind of situation, I like the idea of an ETF. But if you're talking about a bigger account, I like the flexibility of individual stocks where you can tax loss harvest throughout the year. You could
do you all do that on I mean, I think it's one of the most underutilized aspects of having a taxable account. Are you guys actively tax loss harvesting? And
yeah. And then the other piece is, if you're charitably inclined, you can give a highly appreciated stock to charity and not take a capital gain on it. So I do like that from the individual stock piece. It's not to say you can give a chunk of your ETF away to charity either, but you can just be a lot more decisive about one stock is up by 600%. You want to give that one away. So, but I think they both have a place.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Are you using any mutual funds anymore? Is anyone using mutual funds? Oh, you are? Okay.
Yeah, and on the bond side, frankly, Vanguard mutual funds are inexpensive and diversified. So it's hard to beat those for sure.
You can't, it's funny. It wasn't that long ago. There was no ETF on bonds. I'll never forget. We had, it was probably a little bit before you. I think you were still in the Navy back then. But when I was at Smith Barney, it used to be like Mason and Vanguard, they just started doing, having advisors, where they, wholesalers. Do you get wholesalers in your office? I don't know if that's even people come around anymore.
I mean, there definitely are fund salesmen sure, and salespeople for sure that are selling a new fund or just a new way of doing things. I mean, they are still out in droves for sure.
So, we used to get lunches every day with some wholesalers, nuts. But anyway, Vanguard didn't have one, and then they started rolling them out. I said, "Man, you guys got to get a bond fund ETF," and now ETFs are all. It's just weird how the world was so much different, just 20 years ago, and now, I mean, hell, but even just 10 years, it's just weird how quickly times change. It's even interesting when you think about it, because in the 70s, you had there's a fixed cost commission, everybody until Jimmy Carter deregulated that. And it's interesting just how this industry has changed so much. And that's why one of the things that drives me up the wall about people in our business who aren't students of the business, people in our business who just, I don't know what they just like, they're not interested in the mechanics of the business. You know what I'm saying? Like how financial planning, investments and all that work. And they just, and a lot of people are like that. Actually, it drives up the wall. And that's one of the reasons I tell people getting a CFP is good, but I don't think that's enough anymore. I think a master's degree like Abbie and I both have in financial planning, I think that's, and you don't have to agree with this as, but anything in terms of, I did a video, a webinar with, I guess, 14 folks on there, and they all paid to get on my webinar on thinking about becoming a financial advisor. There's a lot of interest in it. What would you say in terms of like credentials, we'll get you out here in a sec, credentials, qualifications, all that, people are interested, even if they're not going to be an advisor, but just learning. Any thoughts that jump out at you that says, look, I mean, I think we all know the CFP is the gold standard now, even though I in a lot of ways I wish it were not, but it is what it is. I mean, they've done a better job at marketing than the CHFC and all that. But what says you in that regard? Not just with CFP, but master's degree, PhD, anything jumps out at you in that regard?
So for being a generalist, I think both a CFP designation and a master's are helpful.
Yeah.
I think if you really want to specialize in an area, you have to do your own research on, is there a designation for that? Meaning things like there's a divorce one, there's life insurance, there's risk management. So if you have a real passion for one of those things or wanting to help those people, I do think finding that niche and finding the education around it is good, is important. And then I read a lot and listen to a lot of podcasts, and but I think you just have to be careful on sometimes just checking the content. Almost, we're talking today about the HSA and what it can be used for. I always would rather go back to the IRS regs and read it instead of taking what I said or what someone else on a podcast says, because I have lots of things in my mind that I might have learned 10 years ago, and that's what I've always thought, and that's what I learned then, and they could have changed. So I think it's really good to check, do your own research on that sort of thing too, and go to the source rather than, because even experts get it wrong sometimes.
Man, especially a blog post. I know some of these guys who write these blog posts, a lot of them are just young kids. You know what I'm saying? You're like writing financial blog posts for Market Watch or whatever, and you're like, the fool, and you're like, that's not correct. And or glomming onto that. Craig says, speaking of stimulus checks, are those added back to income in regard to the 1040? I don't know idea. Do you know?
I don't.
I think they are, but actually I don't want to go. It seemed like there's something that was added back. They had, well, at least they're subject to FICA, maybe not the stimulus checks. Unemployment, is unemployment subject to FICA? I can't remember. I don't know, Craig. Good question though. The Vanguard ETFs REITs are VNQ, Victory November, Quebec. Yep. Quebec, as we said. I say Qua. Actually, it's Quebec. Because we're from Maine, we can say it. Then for the international ones, VNQI. Assisted living centers will do well as boomers age, and a lot of I don't know, man. That's usually, I'm not sure. All right, Abs, we'll get you back on the kids. All right, so we gave the website for Abbie's regionatlantic.com, and I'll put a link in the show notes. Let's see. Seems like I want to make sure I'm covering all bases. Give the Hannah and old John big hugs,
and your gang Steve, as well.
And slap Steve on the butt for me. Abbie is still a Patriots fan, thankfully, but I don't know if I'm gonna be. I don't know. After all this crazy stuff, I think I'm done with sports. To be honest with you, Ab. So we shall see how that shakes out. But right now, I'm very disenchanted with all sports. That's for sure. So we'll see how that shakes out. But any last thoughts, Abs, to the audience here? We've had a number of people come on and log off.
Yeah. So I will. So Josh is 6 years and 355 days older than me. Our birthdays are 1 day apart, and they're coming up actually. But when I first got in the Navy, Josh. I'm sure he's talked in the past about, we did not come from a household that talked a lot about finances and saving and compounding. And he said, Abs, whatever you do, just put $25 away a month, even just do it. And he said, you'll see, it will, one day you're going to open up that account statement and it will have grown. And I just didn't realize at the time, because I was young and in the Navy and not really thinking about money that much. And sure enough, I put $25 away a month, and that money grew, and I didn't look at it very often. And when I went to go buy my first condo, I had money that could go towards a down payment. So I would just say, every little bit helps. Don't wait till it's a better time. Start now.
Oh, yeah.
Even if it's $5 or $10, it matters. So I'd say do that. And I also think there's a magic to living within your means, and it's not fun. You know, you don't necessarily drive the nicest car doing that, but I will tell you, my clients who have always lived within their means have a much less stressful retirement, have a much less stressful life. They don't, they're not stressed out all the time about money and having enough. They're really content with what they have. So I'd say just try to live within your means. I think it means a more peaceful existence.
More peaceful life. You know, it's real quick because Ben's mathematically inclined, and obviously we're not afraid of numbers. Does that come from mom? I mean, because mom was an accountant, you know what I'm saying? And obviously, I mean, it doesn't come from dad, but I mean, you think like, I just remember mom when she was living with Henry, showed me the value line stock charts and stuff. And that always interests me. I mean, I'm just curious. I was like, what, were you always mathematically inclined or just interested in finance or through mom or just?
Yeah. I actually was never that interested in finance, but I loved math. And I love problem solving, and financial planning is more about, math is part of it. Don't get me wrong, but I do a lot more problem solving during the day than I do crunching numbers. And
it's got to be genetic because Ben's like that too. Ben's our brother, by the way. And Ben, got like a freaking 1600 on this? I don't know. Ben just, I mean, what did he get on the LSATs? Like 175 or something? Nuts.
He better than I would do, that's for sure.
Better than I would do if I did it 3 times and you add them all together. It's nuts. And but anyway, so there's something like just genetically maybe that comes down from mom, or I don't know where it comes from, but it's nuts because we've all been problem solvers. Enjoyed that immensely. At least me. That's what I love about financial planning. Because like you said, people come to you and say, I got this stack of crap. I don't know what to do. And it's just like, you're like, man, it's freaking exciting. This is
I know.
You get fired up.
I know.
And you're like, look, I'm not going to bash these other scumbags that you've been dealing with. Get what I just said. I'm not going to bash these scumbags. Get that? I don't say it like that. But you're like, all right, let's take this bunch of crap and we'll put it into little buckets and we'll start making sure everything, it's fun. And when you do that so much, you get so good at it that you're like, why are people not, there's a solution, and the solution is just what you said, Abbie, is live with your means. And trust me, I am. Oh, well, hold on. What? Oh, come here. Abbie wants to see. Hold on a second. Someone growling at me. He wants to see Aunt Abbie. My name is Pablo. I live on the 2nd floor. Oh, he's like, yeah, that's not funny. He wants to lick my
Sherlock. He doesn't want to get up. He's too tired.
Too lazy. It's fun to be in you're like, and so if you're into financial planning and you're like, not in finance, if you're into solving engineers are good financial planners.
Yes, they are.
Engineers. Anyway, I don't want to get off too much on that tangent because I know you'd rather do anything than talk to your big brother. Love you, Abs.
Love you too.
Thanks for
Good
being
night, everyone.
Thanks, Jen. Pablo, look at Pablo. He's giving you the side eye. He's giving you the side eye. Love you, sis.
Bye.
Right, bye.